We get company.
Broadsword calling Danny Boy.
I'm glad it's you.
Well, I understand double O's have a very short life expectancy, so your mistake will be short-lived.
Would you like some refreshments?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank
Enjoy the show.
Hi there. Welcome to Sitting Through the Credits, a film review podcast covering new releases, cult classics, and everything in between. My name is Matt, and for this second episode, I'll be talking about the National Theatre's 2022 production of Anton Chekhov's The Seagull, which made its way to cinemas this year as part of National Theatre Live. Written in 1895 and first performed in 1896, The Seagull was described in Chekhov's correspondence at the time of writing as a comedy with a great deal of conversation about literature, little action, and tons of love. This 2022 version of the play, which was recorded with a live audience at the Harold Pinter Theatre in London, was directed by Jamie Lloyd after a 2-year delay caused by COVID. It was adapted by British playwright Anya Reiss, initially in 2012 for Southwark Playhouse.
It was just all speeches, no action. I always thought good plays have a love story.
A comedy, tragedy, romance, and drama all rolled into one. The play has 4 main protagonists: Konstantin, Irina, Trigorin, and Nina. Konstantin, played by Australian actor Daniel Monks, is an aspiring playwright who seeks to reinvent the idea of theatre in the story, as well as acting as a parody of Chekhov's own work. Indira Varma steals the show with her performance as Irina Arkadina, Konstantin's unsupported mother, a famous actress who, as a traditionalist, mocks Konstantin's writing. Boris Trigorin, played with detached mystery by Tom Rhys-Harris, has already achieved fame as a writer and also shares some characteristics with Chekhov himself, such as the insecurities that dog his need for perfection. Trigorin is also a rival for Konstantin's writing initially being derided and rejected in favour of the successful traditional author. As well as professional jealousy, the friction between these two characters is also elevated, as Trigorin is Irina's lover and is winning the affections of Nina. Finally, Nina is played by Emilia Clarke, the ingenue of the story, who craves fame but ultimately descends from her state of hopeful naivety into misery, much as the play's other characters have already done prior to the story. Casting Emilia Clarke as Nina, a young actress aspiring for fame, immediately adds an extra meta layer to this play about plays and theatre. The on-screen theatre and in-cinema audience reaction clearly evidence that we are all in on the joke of the situation.
It is amazing to meet you. I've read all your books.
But simply summing up Nina with words such as young actress would be to do the character a disservice. A key element of The Seagull is Nina's character journey and the contrast with the lives and situations of the remainder of the cast, who exist incapable of escaping a stasis composed of their own boredom and unhappiness. Nina's journey is the play's emotional rollercoaster, from hopeful love to tragic grief, an intimate character piece which makes for a strong West End debut for Emilia Clarke. Looking beyond the headline-grabbing star, though, each of the 10 actors in this production give extremely strong performances, with not a weak link among the cast, which is critical as the production is such an ensemble piece. Robert Glenister takes the role of the ailing Petrushka Sorin, Irina's brother and the landowner of the estate, and isn't in enough scenes for my liking. Jason Barnett plays Shamrayev, the estate manager, his wife Polina being played by Sarah Powell, whilst their daughter Masha is played deftly by Sophie Wu, her deadpan humour one of the show's highlights. Medvedenko, the local schoolteacher and Masha's suitor, is played by Micah Onyx Johnson, and Gerald Kidd plays Dawn, the doctor who also acts as a stand-in for the audience. Going in, I was relatively unfamiliar with the play, the main attraction admittedly being the actors starring in it. Apart from its stellar cast, the most striking element of this version of The Seagull is its production design. This is the first Jamie Lloyd company production that I have seen, but the use of their Spartan approach to set design makes these productions immediately identifiable, as was the case with their successful 2019 production of Cyrano de Bergerac with James McAvoy. The Seagull set and costume designer was Sutra Gilmore, with lighting provided by Jackie Shemesh. The set is as Spartan as they come, a 3-wall chipboard box, the 4th wall removed for the audience. Yes, we have seen what you've done there. Illuminated by 9 lights on its chipboard ceiling, with 10 plastic chairs for its actors. Very few changes occur on set, save for the cast moving their chairs and the rear wall being removed for the play's final 2 acts, symbolising Konstantin's own deconstruction of theatrical convention. The costuming of the actors is along the same vein, all of them wearing baggy, comfortable clothing and performing barefoot, their microphones barely concealed. The obvious positive of this approach is that the audience's attention is firmly fixed upon the cast and their performances. The added bonus of the filmed National Theatre live production is that close-ups also allow an even greater focus on the performer's facial expressions and physicality than even the closest theatre seats would allow in person. The choices made for the staging are interesting for the Seagull, as this play of Chekhov's is one that deliberately keeps its lurid actions offstage, so useful as it would be to see certain props, confining them to the audience's imagination isn't as jarring as it could be for other plays. Nevertheless, this does mean that this performance of the Seagull is seagull-less. That being said, one could argue that the bird shot and later stuffed in the play is not really the seagull of the play's title, and so its physical absence is arguably inconsequential to the telling of the story. The Seagull covers many themes, being a meditation on the theatre, art and storytelling, exploring life, death and human nature, from the boredom we can experience to the human desire to find meaning within a person's life. In spite of the austere nature of its sets, visually this production has a lot to offer. I found the imagery delivered at the play's conclusion to be very haunting. It's sticking in my mind weeks after seeing the film on the cinema screen. I was also pleasantly surprised by two of the most effective jump scares I've ever experienced in cinema, both of which arrived entirely unexpectedly as a result of the production's sound design and lighting. As well as being an anglicised and modernised version of the Russian play, this version of the Seagull has been divorced from its original Russian context. In her view, Anya Reiss has described Sorin's estate as perhaps being on the Isle of Man in her mind, but perhaps not. Accompanying the modernisation of the play's language, references are made to mobile phones, Land Rovers and helicopters. It was these elements that proved to be the most problematic parts of the adaptation for me, feeling like unnecessary, anachronistic details within the confines of a set, which could otherwise be praised for its timeless qualities.
Oh, and it was going so well.
The Jamie Lloyd Company's desire to strip back plays to their bare bones in order to make the drama more accessible to a broader modern audience who may perhaps be put off by a historic play rooted in late 19th century Russia is certainly commendable, but in losing that context you are also losing important elements of the story, key to the characters' motivations and troubles. Undercutting the streamlined approach that this production is committed to is the decision to retain the original Russian character names, an act that ends up feeling less like reverence, rather an attempt to reclaim a sense of authenticity from the original text. All in all, I'd have to rate this film stage production as an 8 out of 10, although if I were rating the actors on their performances alone, it would easily be a 10. Though I can see what the production team were trying to achieve on stage, the stripped-back approach isn't the sort of approach I'd routinely hope to see when watching a stage play, as the raw, unfinished aesthetic makes the play look like a rehearsal and runs the risk of compromising the audience's ability to suspend its disbelief. If those choices were at least partially responsible for the performances we have received, however, on the whole they were choices worth making. Dawn's meta words upon watching Konstantin's play within a play certainly left me with a wry smile on my view. I know it was a little strange, and I didn't see the end, and I didn't understand a lot of it, but I will remember it. Chekhov fan or not, I do recommend watching this 2022 adaptation of The Seagull. Hopefully you enjoyed this second episode of Sitting Through the Credits. I'm looking forward to bringing more film reviews to you soon. Thanks for listening.
I'm gonna hide this tape when I'm finished.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard.
Erasing it. It's life.
What's the boogeyman?
Any further resistance will be dealt with in the same way.
As a matter of fact, it was.
End of story.